In the last video, part 1 of the revealing of Vanity's secret diaries, we learned a lot about Denise Matthews' horrifying childhood, her constant fight with predatory men, and her abusive relationship with rock star Prince. And although she revealed a lot about the evils of Hollywood, she mainly spoke of her tumultuous relationship with Prince, which would give Ike Turner a run for his money. But in this video, part 2, Denise reveals far worse things that have happened to her during her time in Hollywood, Prince's revenge on her, and the scary rabbit hole of substance abuse she battled with. She even speaks of all witchcraft she indulged in, and the devils and demons that literally tormented her. She writes of how the people in her life ended up tortured and brutally deleted, and her involvement in these crimes. If you thought part 1 was bad, part 2 is worse. This is a trigger warning. This video consists of topics about self-deletion and brutal deletion, as well as some disturbing images. If you're sensitive to these topics, this may not be the video for you.
Dear Diary.
The beginning works on Purple Rain, the movie we're starting, and this was the catalyst for breaking Vanity free from her toxic relationship with Prince. Vanity explained how Prince was gearing up for Purple Rain and how they both sat down with a writer to recount their lives and the nature of their relationship, to see whether they meshed or clashed. She said they each had a hand in writing the other's lines, reflecting their understanding of one another. Vanity knew Prince's persistence bordered on being bull-headed, while he understood her to be stubborn and defiant. She wrote that, "Everybody decided Prince had a Napoleon complex. He was mean just to be mean. If you said black, he'd say white, and you'd agree just to avoid an argument. Most of the time she would say, 'Yes, boss,' but then do whatever she wanted anyway. She admitted she rebelled against him because she wanted to get back at him for the way he treated her. Vanity said Prince had a way of giving himself to people without really giving himself at all. He would call her his girl, but she said she never felt like she was truly his. Prince wanted to possess her, but he wouldn't let himself be possessed. She said the idea of acting in a film with him felt impossible, and she finally built up the nerve to leave him. She revealed that Morris and others had often talked about walking away, but lacked the courage to do it. Vanity decided to be the first and stand on her own. When Prince found out she was leaving, he summoned her to his hotel room in Los Angeles and flew into a rage. 'How dare you even think of leaving me now?' he shouted. Vanity said everything revolved around his movie Purple Rain, his needs, his vision, his dreams. Nothing was ever about her. She described him pacing around the room like a madman, screaming at the top of his lungs. He went insane, out of his mind, she said. He did everything he could to convince her to stay, but Vanity said it was too late. 'All the tears I had were gone. It was much too late to fix it,' she explained. To Prince, it was all about fame and glory, with love nowhere in the picture. She said it was heartbreaking to see him so out of control, but she had made up her mind. Vanity recalled how, in the middle of his tirade, Prince suddenly blurted out, 'Is it your birthday today, Vanity?' 'Did I miss your birthday?' She said she was stunned. 'I couldn't believe my ears. What was he even talking about?' she said. 'Of course it's not my birthday.' She believed it was a desperate attempt to win her back. Prince tried another approach, possibly sweet-talking or seduction, but Vanity was resolute. She had already contacted Hal Ray at the William Morris Agency and was moving forward. Hal reviewed her contracts and uncovered the truth. Prince had been doing her dirty financially. Prince had locked her into a 7-year deal, paying her only $250 a week. A slave contract, as Vanity called it. She realized Prince intended to control her for years to come, squeezing every ounce of life out of her creativity. She explained that most of the group didn't understand the fine print in their contracts, and she was the one to break the news to everyone. "We were young, caught up in the glitz and glamour, and didn't know better," she said. The irony of Prince of the 1990s talking about being a slave to his record label when he was doing the very same thing to all of his artists and protégés. He'd done something very similar to Jill Jones as well, having her locked into a slave contract, so that she couldn't move on. Vanity remembered how Prince often complained about his management company, Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Fargnoli, accusing them of using the same exploitative tactics that he himself was using on others. She said, "Prince learned from the best. He knew how to use people for his own gain." Hal reassured her that contracts could be broken, and he promised to free her from the arrangement. She packed her bags and sent them to Los Angeles, ready to start fresh. That night, Vanity noticed Prince's limo circling her apartment building. He even sent Jerome to her door to convince her to stay. Vanity refused. "I saw my dreams in front of me," she said. "I couldn't let him choke them out." To make her departure final, she gave Prince an ultimatum: pay her $200,000 to star in Purple Rain. She already knew he wouldn't agree. Prince countered with $10,000, and Vanity rejected it outright. She explained that the money wasn't the issue anymore. She felt like she was drowning and needed to save herself. Vanity revealed that one of the main reasons she left Prince was because being around him was unbearable. "I was hopelessly in love with him, but that kind of love was killing me," she said. She explained that she never asked him for anything, but he always made her feel like she owed him. Leaving was the only way to reclaim her life. She found an apartment in Los Angeles, decorating it with soft colors like orchard peach, floral pink, and lavender. "It gave me a sense of freedom," she said. Hal wasted no time setting up opportunities for Vanity, including a meeting with Motown's Berry Gordy. She eventually signed with Motown, but Prince tried to block her progress. His lawyers claimed she couldn't use the name Vanity 6 since he owned the rights. "The contract was designed so you go in with nothing and come out with even less," she said. Hal's team strategized, and Stevie Wonder's lawyer, Yagoda, found the loophole. While Prince owned Vanity 6, he didn't own the name Vanity. She would continue her career under that name. Vanity admitted that even after leaving, she sometimes crossed paths with Prince in Los Angeles. Strangely, she always dreamed about his arrival before it happened. "I'd call Jaime and say, 'Prince is coming to town tonight, I just know it.' And he always did," she said. They would often see each other across the dance floor, staring in silence. Vanity said she could tell from his eyes that he missed her, but neither of them ever made a move. When Purple Rain premiered, Vanity didn't attend. "I didn't want to see his face up close. I was afraid of carrying that same torch all over again," she admitted. Vanity also spilled that Susan Moonsey later told her about the drama that was going on between Prince and Apollonia. Susan told Vanity that Apollonia would charge outrageous bills to Prince's bank account, causing him to lose his temper. Vanity wrote, "Susan told me you were sweet potato pie compared to what he's dealing with now." Vanity laughed about that. Vanity concluded that chapter with stating that leaving Prince was the best decision she ever made. It was painful but necessary for her growth, independence, and survival.
Dear Diary.
This is the chapter and diary entry where Vanity writes about the night she was attending the 1985 American Music Awards. This would be the first time she'd see Prince in a long time. Here's how it went. Vanity wrote that she arrived at the luxurious Beverly Wilshire Hotel, where she was greeted by a valet who escorted her to her room. Ever playful and flirty, she kissed him on the forehead as a thank you. The star-struck valet responded, "I'll never wash my face again." Once alone, Vanity began to prepare for the evening ahead. She ran herself a luxurious bubble bath and ordered a bottle of crystal champagne, savoring the anticipation of the night. She had been invited to the American Music Awards to present Prince with an award for Purple Rain. Vanity reflected on how many of the songs in the film mirrored their complicated relationship. Though their parting had been less than amicable, she felt a spark of hope that this evening might mark the beginning of something new. There had always been something unshakable between them, like the tension of a bow drawn to an arrow. It had been a long time since Vanity had seen Prince, but she longed to look into his striking brown-green eyes again. She recalled his soft whispers from what felt like a lifetime ago. He said to her, "It seems the only time I ever see your face is when you appear on the cover of a magazine." Vanity decided to dress with him in mind. She slipped into a daring black lace gown of her own design, completely see-through except for strategically placed coverage provided by a long, gleaming black fur. She accessorized with the black and gold cane Prince had gifted her one Christmas, a sentimental touch. While soaking in the bath, Vanity's thoughts wandered to the intimate moments they once shared, like lighting candles together. Afterward, she stepped into her striking gown, completed her look, and climbed into a stretch black Cadillac limo. Vanity made sure the limo pulled up to the front entrance, relishing the attention as onlookers gawked at her bold ensemble. She loved to shock people, just as Prince did. It was no wonder they had been dubbed the rude boy and the nasty girl. Upon arriving at the awards, Vanity headed backstage, where the energy was buzzing with excitement. She was seated next to Donna Summer, and the two women laughed and chatted as if they were old friends. When her moment came, Vanity was escorted behind a red velvet curtain, her heart pounding with anticipation. She clutched the envelope tightly, knowing Prince was about to hear her voice for the first time in ages. With a confident smile, she stepped onto the stage with her co-presenters, opened the envelope, and declared, "And the winner is Prince for Purple Rain." As Prince and the Revolution took the stage, Vanity watched him beam with joy. It had been so long since she'd seen the band, and she felt a sense of happiness for all of them. When Prince kissed her on the cheek, the touch felt electric, as if it carried the promise of a fresh start. Vanity couldn't help but believe in fate. That night, Prince's outfit mirrored hers. A black lace ensemble designed for a man, matching her bold aesthetic. Even the intricate details of his outfit echoed hers. Later, in the evening, a waiter brought Vanity a single peach-pink rose from Prince, a gesture that made her smile. After the party, Vanity returned to her hotel room. She sank into the soft, plump king-size bed, letting the events of the night wash over her. Staring at the ceiling, she reflected on how far she had come, from a young girl with big dreams to a woman standing tall in her own spotlight. Drifting off to sleep, the memories of her mother and childhood was going through her mind. She'd actually made it.
Dear Diary.
Vanity's career was at a high point as she signed with Motown and began filming The Last Dragon in New York. She found her dream condo on 52nd and 2nd, a posh building with mirrored walls, a personal sauna, and a full staff, including a doorman, mailman, an elevator operator. Living in such luxury felt like a step up in life. Before this, she had lived in various parts of New York, but none compared to her glamorous new home. It truly embodied the glamorous life. But alongside the glitz and glamour, Vanity's drug use became a constant. Depending on her workload, she often got high, staying up late writing lyrics to Bill Wolfer's music for The Last Dragon soundtrack. Some nights she'd write until 2 a.m. and sleep just a few hours before starting her day. On set, she experienced tension with Diana Ross, who seemed to go out of her way to avoid her. Vanity asked Berry Gordy about it, and he explained that Diana didn't like sharing the spotlight. One evening at a restaurant, Vanity approached Diana to clear the air, only for Diana to brush past her and leave abruptly. Obviously, Diana Ross was being a hater. Vanity believed the tension stemmed from the creative control Barry had granted her, more than he'd ever given Diana. Despite this, the release of The Last Dragon brought Vanity praise and a significant paycheck. Her debut album, Wild Animal, had also launched, and she began a whirlwind promotional tour, traveling to Italy, Paris, and the Cannes Film Festival. At Cannes, Vanity walked the red carpet while photographers swarmed her, and her name boomed from the loudspeakers. She shot for top fashion magazines, including Italian Vogue, and worked with elite designers. Although she was living the life, Vanity was grateful to Barry for his generosity, but the demanding schedule left little time for a personal life. While promoting in Europe, Vanity indulged in extravagance, spending up to $50,000 on clothes and being chauffeured in a car styled after Queen Elizabeth's. She explored Amsterdam's red light district, where she saw naked women in windows, live sex shows, and drugs openly sold in coffee shops. Though curious, she and her team refrained from buying anything harder than weed. Back in the US, Vanity continued promoting her album, releasing music videos, and preparing for more tours. Her drug habit deepened. She smoked cocaine between gigs, though never during work hours, relying on her secretary to procure her supply. At home, she often smoked alone in her closet, consumed by isolation. Vanity's social life included wild nights with friends like Sharon and Jamie Shoup, often driving her Jaguar XJS and reveling in the attention she received. She briefly dated Rod Stewart, bringing her grandmother along to their dinner date as a playful prank. Rod surprised her by entertaining her grandmother and even stripping off his pants at the restaurant. Despite the public adoration, Vanity felt hollow. Her extravagant new home, a self-described small castle with 2 king-size beds in her cream and blue satin bedroom, only emphasized her loneliness. She admitted to fleeting relationships, including a brief fling with Tom Cruise, but none filled the void inside her. Acting became less about passion and more about money. She starred in films like Action Jackson, 52 Pickup, and Never Too Young to Die, often resenting the nudity required for her roles. She felt used and was tired of being sexually exploited. Directors dismissed her concerns, telling her to comply or be replaced. She also faced hostility from co-stars like Morgan Fairchild, who refused to share scenes with her during her movie, Deadly Illusions. Vanity's personal struggles continued to mount. She realized that her public persona, Vanity, had taken over her identity as Denise Matthews. Vanity became a mask she wore, hiding the pain and confusion beneath. After completing her movie Highlander 3 and other films, she felt like she was falling into a black hole of despair. She would wake up, put on the facade of vanity, and feel herself fading further away from who she truly was. During this time, her relationship with her family was strained. She rarely heard from her mother, who was often drunk and incoherent. Her stepmom, Kate, had the nerve to reach out to her only after she'd become rich and famous. And Vanity sought solace in her grandmother, who apologized for mistreating her as a child. Her grandmother also revealed a shocking family secret. Vanity's father might not have been her biological father. Though she dismissed the rumors as a child, the revelation left her questioning her place in the family. Her grandmother passed away shortly after, leaving Vanity with unresolved emotions. Vanity eventually entered a hospital to fight her addiction, staying sober for 28 days before relapsing. Work provided a temporary distraction, but when the cameras stopped rolling, she was left alone with her demons. She admitted that her career, drugs, and relationships had all been attempts to fill a void she couldn't escape. In the end, she blamed Vanity for her pain, recognizing that the persona she created had become both her armor and her prison.
Dear Diary.
Vanity reflected deeply on how living as the persona she was given had a destructive grip on her life. She confessed that she was battling severe inner demons and a debilitating cocaine addiction. She admitted to repeatedly falling for the wrong men and struggling with compulsive lying, which seemed to invite trouble into her life. In relationships, the traits she despised in others were often the ones that dominated and subjugated her. Vanity revealed that she would scrub her body so hard in the shower that it left her with rashes, all while sobbing and crying out for God. She often curled up on the shower floor, feeling utterly defeated. Even though Denise, her true self, prayed for deliverance, she would inevitably return to drugs. She described how Vanity, the persona, had taken over her life with such an uncontrollable force that she felt powerless to stop it. Vanity spoke for her, dressed her, and overshadowed Denise to the point where her true identity was almost erased. Denise described Vanity as her enemy, a dominating figure that pushed her further into addiction and isolation. She admitted to having no real friends and living a life consumed by money and drugs. The thrill of scoring drugs brought momentary excitement, but after the first hit, paranoia set in. Vanity described how her senses became so heightened that mundane sounds like trucks passing by felt like jet engines waging war inside her head. Her mind spiraled into disorientation, depression engulfed her, and her body felt numb. Despite the intense physical and emotional toll, she kept going back for more. Her dependency on drugs became routine, her version of morning coffee. Even when utterly exhausted, the call from her dealer would energize her, propelling her to reckless behavior, including dangerous driving that endangered others. Her paranoia grew to the point where she avoided answering the door, phone, or even her mail. She stopped paying bills, living in darkness except for the electricity needed to prepare her drugs. Vanity acknowledged the overwhelming guilt she felt, but admitted it wasn't enough to make her stop. Her uncontrolled lifestyle extended beyond drugs. She spent money frivolously, said whatever came to mind without considering others, and manipulated people to feed her addiction. She lamented that she wasn't the princess she had dreamed of being, but rather a wild joker, caught in a cycle of pain and self-destruction. Vanity admitted that her life had become worthless to her, except as a means of being strung out. She recounted a brief relationship with Frank Mancuso Jr., the producer of Friday the 13th. Unlike others, Frank genuinely cared for her well-being and remained a friend. Vanity admitted she was the one who ruined the relationship due to her struggles. She also mentioned starring in Tales from the Crypt alongside Whoopi Goldberg, where she played a role that ended in her death, a recurring theme in many of her roles. She wondered if this was God trying to send her a message. Vanity reflected on her appearance in Playboy, admitting she only did it for the money to support her drug habit. Death became an ever-present thought for Vanity. She described vivid, nightmarish visions of hell, serpents consuming people, bloody bodies writhing in agony, and screams of terror in dark, haunting forests. These images felt more real than dreams, leaving her shaken. During this period, she delved into psychic practices, attempting to communicate with the dead and believing God was involved. She would reveal personal details about others' past, convincing herself she had tapped into a divine power. However, she later realized that she had been deceived. She came to believe that necromancy, the practice of communicating with the dead, was a lie orchestrated by the devil. Vanity concluded that only Jesus Christ could hear and answer prayers, cautioning others against falling into similar traps of spiritual deception. For a deeper dive into her practicing with the occult and dark forces, again watch this video next.
Dear Diary.
Vanity's penthouse in Sherman Oaks was a chaotic hub of drug activity, cloaked in the guise of luxury. She described it as a towering inferno of drugs and cocaine, with the FBI surveilling the building, waiting to take down dealers. The parking lot was filled with high-end cars, Porsches, Corvettes, Mercedes, and BMWs, belonging to users and dealers alike. Despite this, the building, aptly named the Grand, was one of the most elegant in the valley. However, behind its beauty, Vanity said, lay a deep wickedness. After returning from a shoot, she would strip off her clothes, light up her pipe, and start painting, often creating explicit works of art that adorned her walls. Vanity revealed she believed she had lived many lives and even convinced herself she had been Mary Magdalene. She thought she was destined for heaven no matter what, though she acknowledged her home felt far from heavenly. She admitted to teaching others misleading beliefs and described herself as rebellious, stubborn, and foul-mouthed. Her spiritual confusion led her to witchcraft, which she practiced regularly in her home, sometimes in front of witnesses. She claimed demons shared her space, tormenting her mind and body. She recounted how they choked her, crawled around her bed, and left her paralyzed with fear, even when she wasn't using drugs. Eventually, she grew too terrified to even enter her own home. While away shooting her movie Memories of Murder in Vancouver, one of the largest drug busts in Los Angeles took place at the Grand. Tragically, her friend Greg, the building's maintenance man, was brutally murdered. Greg had shared with Vanity his excitement about reuniting with his daughter after 5 years, but she later learned he had been involved in illegal fund smuggling and had stolen from a dealer. His captors tortured him for hours, muzzling him to silence his screams before finally killing him. His young daughter discovered his body running from the apartment in terror. Vanity said it felt like death surrounded her, be it from AIDS, drugs, or violence. Vanity explained that the FBI had been monitoring the building from across the street, tapping phones, including hers. Despite the looming danger, her addiction controlled her. She would search for anything to smoke, admitting she was insane and that her body, soul, and spirit were decaying. Vanity emphasized that cocaine destroys the soul, no matter how beautiful, rich, or famous someone is. She frequently contemplated self-deletion, begging God to let her disappear without a trace. She recalled attending the Grammys with Dick Griffey, the Solar Records executive who professed his love for her. However, Vanity admitted she had no love to give. Her only focus was drugs. She also described briefly dating Michael Bolton, who gave her his number at the Grammys. They went on a few dates and even attended Paula Abdul's party together. Vanity had worked with Paula on Action Jackson and was excited to see her friend beginning her music career. Despite these connections, Vanity said 3 months was the longest relationship she could manage. Vanity recounted an invitation from Don Johnson to his home while filming Miami Vice. But their brief encounter was uneventful, as his heart still belonged to his ex-wife, Melanie Griffith. She also shared a story about being approached by Sylvester Stallone at a club. When his entourage invited her to meet him, she quipped, "Can't he come over and ask me himself?" Although they spoke, she went home alone. Vanity admitted the only consistent companion in her life was drugs. Her drug use began to take a severe toll on her health. A doctor warned her about internal bleeding and high blood pressure, but she ignored the advice, continuing her downward spiral. Her paranoia grew so intense that she covered her mirrors with blankets, unable to bear seeing her reflection. She lived in total darkness, lighting the house with dozens of red and blue candles, creating an atmosphere she described as linked to death. Even the sound of her own breathing or minor movements in the house would drive her to the brink of insanity. Vanity revealed that her manager, Hal, tried desperately to help her, enrolling her in 2 drug addiction programs and attending meetings for alcoholics and drug abusers. Despite his tearful pleas, Vanity would buy and use drugs immediately after leaving meetings, as her addiction became apparent to others now.
Dear Diary.
Denise opens this chapter by explaining that she was staring down at her hands, which were shaking from the shock gripping her heart. She held her chest tightly, trying to check if her pulse was still pumping. Her heart palpitated so angrily that she thought she might die from the electrical surge caused by the hit she had just taken. Denise admitted she felt shame and perilous regret. She said she had been warned many times. Each time she left her house to buy drugs, someone would call her, inviting her to dinner, or offering her an alternative plan. Denise believed these were signs that God was ready to rescue her, but she admitted she wasn't ready to be saved. Denise said all she could do was pray, wondering if God would hear her and if he could truly change her life. She prayed for help, confessing that she hated herself. She went on to describe working on the film Da Vinci's War in February 1992. She was playing the lead role alongside Joey Travolta, with Ray Martino as the director. About 2 weeks into filming, she noticed a man on set, Sam J. Jones, the actor who played Flash Gordon. Denise said she prayed to God, saying, "God, if you just give me this guy, I'll never do drugs again." Later, during lunch, Sam was sitting in his car when Denise was introduced to him. He asked if she remembered him, and when Denise said no, he reminded her of an earlier encounter. Sam said they had met at a club on Santa Monica Boulevard, where he had taken her to the hills and tried to kiss her. Denise had let him kiss her on the cheek but had no memory of the meeting. She asked if she had been comatose at the time. While talking in his car, Denise noticed a Bible on Sam's lap. It appealed to her, reminding her of when her father had given her a Bible for her birthday as a child. Sam asked if she had been reborn. Denise responded, "How can I be born twice?" Sam opened the Bible to John 3:5. "No one can enter the kingdom of God unless they are born of water and the Spirit." He asked her again if she had ever been reborn. Denise said no, but added that she would try anything. Sam invited her to pray, but Denise had other plans, using drugs. The following night, Denise called Sam again. He told her that he had invited some friends over to pray for her. Denise admitted she had never shared her intimate secrets with strangers before, but something compelled her to trust these people. She said she felt she had nowhere else to turn, having burned nearly every bridge. Denise was introduced to a woman named Terry Copley. Terry listened to Denise as she poured out her heart for several hours, revealing the truth about her life and the hatred she felt for herself. Denise also confided that she had been in a lesbian relationship with a young woman who was obsessed with her vanity persona. The girl ate, slept, and breathed the name Vanity, and often slept by Denise's door, waiting for her to return. Denise said she ended the relationship because it wasn't what she wanted. One day, she picked up a Bible and told the girl, "Somewhere in this book, God doesn't approve." The girl later took her own life, hanging herself from a children's swing set. She left behind a letter, but no explanation. After hearing this horrible story, Denise said Terry didn't judge or condemn her. Terry asked if Denise wanted to give her life to Jesus, and Denise said yes. They stood in the living room and began to pray over Denise. The group prayed in a language Denise didn't understand, describing it as holy and almost Hebrew. They told her Jesus wanted to speak through her as well. During the prayers, they laid hands on her to cast out demons. Denise recalled that one demon, in particular, resisted leaving her body. Terry said, "This one doesn't want to leave." By that point, Denise was drenched in tears, begging God for help. She feared she had sinned too much for Jesus to want her. But the group continued to pray. Denise cried out, "Jesus, help me!" Suddenly, she said she saw a cloud of black and gray smoke rise from her belly and float up to the ceiling. Denise said it felt like a demon leaving her body. She said she knew from that moment on that she belonged to Jesus. "It was as if fire touched my lips," she said. Jesus had taken over her being, and she began to speak rapidly in what she described as an old Indian dialect. Denise said she was filled with the Holy Spirit and couldn't stop speaking in tongues for weeks. That night, she went home and threw her drugs away. Terry picked her up the following Sunday to take her to church, and they also attended Bible study on Wednesday evenings. Denise said certain aspects of her life began to change immediately, while others changed gradually. She began asking people to call her by her real name, Denise, but admitted it took time to adjust to it herself. She started receiving calls to share her testimony in churches about how Jesus had saved her life. However, Denise admitted she wasn't being honest, and she unfortunately was still using. She told congregations she was doing well, but after speaking, she would use the money she earned to buy drugs. Denise said she felt like a fraud and a liar, disappointing the God who had forgiven her. Denise reflected on how she tried to erase vanity from her life. She threw away her old clothes, photos, tapes, and anything else connected to her past. However, her struggles with drugs remained. She described a trip to Montreal with Barbara and Louis Burrell to meet Dion Sanders. Dion, who had been a fan of Vanity for years, talked about money and material success, while Denise tried to discuss Jesus. She described the experience as two people with nothing in common. Denise said she was desperately searching for a way out of the entertainment industry and hoped for redemption, even as she battled her personal demons.
Dear Diary,
Denise spoke about Pastor Willie Harper, the leader of a church in Sunnyvale called Jesus Christ for All Nations. The congregation was diverse, with people of every color, creed, nationality, and race. They referred to themselves as JC fans, a term Denise loved because when people told her they were fans of hers, she would always respond, "I'm a fan of Jesus." The Harpers invited Denise to attend their church, and she began speaking with Roxane Harper over the phone almost daily. Denise confided in Roxane about her struggles, including her cocaine addiction, and Roxane never judged her. Instead, Roxane prayed with her and encouraged her to come to the church. Denise also shared that Roxane confirmed something Jesus had already been telling her. She needed to leave Los Angeles. Denise acknowledged that there was nothing left for her in the city, so she decided to visit the Harpers. Once a year, their church would go on a camping trip, and Denise joined them. She described the church as a place of true freedom. Men openly wept and prayed at the altar, drenched in tears, filled with the Holy Spirit. Denise said it was a flood of genuine worship, with loud praise, spirited dancing, and heartfelt prayers, all focused on honoring Jesus Christ. For the first time since finding her faith, she felt truly welcome. In this church, she wasn't treated like Vanity, the persona she was trying to leave behind. Denise reflected on her past experiences, admitting that she had been wrong to minister her testimony to other congregations before truly learning the Word of God. She realized that wasn't what God had planned for her. She critiqued churches that brought in celebrities like herself solely to draw crowds and increase attendance, turning Christ into a business venture. Denise compared her situation to that of a baby needing nurturing before being ready to serve God fully. She said, "It's like trying to be a teacher before learning what to teach." She admitted that she didn't have anyone to guide her in the right direction at the time and had to learn to prioritize pleasing Jesus over pleasing the public. Denise also emphasized that ministry shouldn't come with a price tag. She acknowledged being paid to share her testimony, but said it felt wrong because, as the Bible teaches, the Word of God is not for sale. What delighted Denise most about the church was how no one asked her superficial questions about Prince or her film career. People simply greeted her in Jesus' name and went about their business, showing her kindness without prying into her past. For the first time, she felt she truly belonged. Despite feeling at peace during her time at the church, Denise admitted she was sad to go home because she dreaded the cycle she knew she would fall back into. She described cocaine as being like coffee to her, and she often called Roxane daily just to confirm she was still there. Denise joked that if Roxane didn't answer, she would panic, thinking the rapture might have taken place. Her paranoia was rooted in a deep fear of God and the consequences of her actions. Denise said Jesus had shown her repeatedly that no sin, not even a small lie, could enter his house. She acknowledged that she was still living in sin, spiritually dead in many ways. Although she had been baptized at the church on the way, it was based on a reading of the parable in Matthew 28:19, and Denise felt she hadn't yet fully understood or embraced what baptism meant for the remission of her sins. Now it seems that's where her diaries ended, but you also have to remember, Denise had planned on releasing this diary book during a time of anger and wanting to air people and the entertainment industry out. After these written accounts, she almost lost her life due to an overdose in 1997. After surviving her near-death experience, instead of using her anger to harm and expose those, she wanted to use her new testimony to try and bring people to the Lord that she believed ultimately truly saved her. As I stated earlier, she did so with the book Blame It on Vanity, which is a rare and also very expensive find. But it's in that book where the real Denise Matthews wanted to show the world who she truly was. And she did, a true survivor and beautiful soul. So, lurkers, what do you think? What do you think about what Denise wrote in her diaries? Do you think they should have been released to the public? What do you think about her and Prince's relationship? Is it as romantic and beautiful as you originally thought? Put your thoughts and comments down below.
Keep to yourself. And as a matter of fact, you have an art room in your house where you
like a
have
studio.
all of your paintings and sculpture.
Yes, all my stuff.
We haven't seen it.
Is this the one that goes to Prince? This is the D1. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Did we plug it in?
Is it all plugged in?
I was so sure that you plug in.
All right.
And can we be able, am I
Now,
able to
is
turn it
Prince going to
around?
mind if you show it on our show?
Well, I guess he got no choice about the matter right now.
My goodness. Oh, God, look at that.
Can we turn it around first?
Sure. How would you like?
Look at that. It's hard to see that. What's dangling? Something?
Oh, you know what? One of the little bead things is coming on.
Okay, that's fine. When you look from the top down at it, this is a huge, complete heart. And
Is that what it is?
these represent his eyes. Okay, Prince's eyes, right here.
Yeah.
And these are his glasses from 1999, the big album, the tour. And this is a seahorse, which is a birthmark on my leg. And this is him from his first album that he wrote the horse. And this is Who Dares Wins. I got these in England. This little patch.
So you
here.
collect things all around the world
Right.
and then put them together?
Right, and this is I, and then it says it's a grateful. It's to tell him how grateful I am for the things that he's done for me in my life. And this is ILO. There's the V, and then there's the E on the other side. But we'll stay on this side for now. As you can see underneath here, there's like these little spouting of pearls way under here. I thought you can catch that on camera.
But
There's
so
a woman
different
in
than what I expected to
Yeah.
see.
How? Spectacular.
I feel like a lump of clay. This is,
there's a woman and her baby inside there, and
why are they in there?
to protect them. Doesn't make any sense to you, I'm sure.
Well, but you know the reason why.
Right. This is a P right here. This is the 17th century side. We were together at that
In another
time.
life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is his another P with his ponytail from the 17th century. And this is to represent when doves cry, the little doves inside here from the song.
Well, how long did this take you?
2.5 years. And this is represents the vanity and the music that we made together. And there's another mirror underneath here. If you turn on the switch right here, the light comes on. Now, if you look inside that little peephole right there, you'll see the pearl hearts.
Hey.
Boy. Is that all you see in there?
Yeah, that's
it's
really,
incredible.
very imaginative.
And if you open it up, right?
Oh, look at this.
You see Prince and I on the cover of Rolling Stone right there.
Can you see this, folks? It opens up right like
Oh,
that.
he
Yeah,
has
there.
camera on it.
Yeah,
it opens up.
there you
Right there, you see a little.
Gosh, that's an enormous amount of work.